on the other hand, Susan Baum calls them alphabet children. They end up with more letters after their names than do professionals with advanced degrees. And you know, it's an alphabet soup. And when I was interviewing parents, there were pretty much all of these. Let's see, you know, attention deficit, obsessive compulsive, learning disability, oppositional defiant, autism spectrum disorder, high functioning autism, anxiety disorder for sure. We see that a lot of anxiety in gifted kids. Tourette's, nonverbal learning disability, depressive, visually impaired, and then sort of my favorite, PDD-NOS, pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified. So your kid's really different, but we can't figure out what it is. So in order to get you services, that's sometimes a diagnosis that a pediatrician will give. I don't think the schools necessarily give that label, but the medical community can. So what I did find was that no matter what the primary diagnosis was, they all had a side of ADD, which really meant they had executive function issues, you know, whatever you want to call it. Some of the forming strategies and problem solving and correcting when your strategy isn't working and breaking things down into steps and all of those things that most people just do on automatic. It isn't automatic for them, it has to be taught. So I talked a little bit about the issues of tag identification. The deficits sometimes prevent a tag ID. Maybe they don't test well on standardized tests, for example. Or it may be a mismatch between the testing instrument and the way the child shows his or her gifts. Certainly a mismatch between the child's learning style, gift, and the predominant mode that school asks for kids to show what they learn. And so the kid doesn't rise to the teacher's attention as a potentially gifted kid. The teacher doesn't nominate the child for further testing. But you can nominate the child if you're a parent. I just, for our building, put out the annual notice in the monthly newsletter that says you can nominate your child. You can ask for a King or observation inventory from our office, and then you can nominate your own child for further evaluation for tag. And if you think your child is gifted but there are other issues of twice exceptionality, make sure that the testing person, your building tag facilitator, or whoever's in charge of that, knows about that. But you know, I have some stories from. I asked when I interviewed the parents how they became aware that their child had issues of with twice exceptionality, how they became aware that their child was gifted, and there were some great stories. There's one girl. She would take the parenting books from her parents' bedstand table, read them, and put Post-its and mark spots for them that she wanted them to particularly pay attention to. This was when she was like 6 or 7. Okay? Another child, when he was still crawling, like creative problem solving, he was playing with probably Duplos, not Legos, the bigger ones for the younger kid. And he wanted to get his Duplos from one place to the other, but he was crawling and his hands were occupied, so he put them in his mouth and he'd bring them over and go back and get another one. So, that's some pretty creative problem solving. Kids who build out of Legos, but they go way beyond what the instructions. They're not building the thing that says step 1, 2, 3, and then when they're done they have this amazing thing. That's a sign of giftedness. We had one student, he was legally blind at birth, and the doctors told his parents that he was severely retarded and he would probably have to be institutionalized. But when the parents saw that he had memorized 100 songs by 14 months of age, they didn't buy it. And that's a story, it kind of gives me a little bit of chills, because they got in immediately with vision services with the ESD, and between the vision services and a surgery, he can see. He still has vision issues, but he can see pretty well. Sometimes he has to hold things really close to focus, and he had the nice thing where the eye kind of, no, it's not astigmatism, it's, anyway, and through the work that they did with the early intervention, you know, then they upgraded him to autistic, and then, you know, mildly autistic, and then he got upgraded to moderate, and now he's considered high-functioning autism. He's in our program, he's completely successful, academically, socially not as much. You know, these are traits that are common to gifted kids, not just twice exceptional kids, but sometimes you see them even more so. The intensity, one of the books talks about overexcitabilities. I'm not sure about the over part, but they can get pretty excitable in any of these areas. One child, you know, just if she watches a movie that's very emotional or even listens to music that has emotional kind of, she's a wreck. You know, it really, really impacts her much more strongly than other kids. The sensory defensiveness, it seems to be a common feature across like all the parents I interviewed, no matter what the diagnosis or primary diagnosis was. A lot of them had sensory defensiveness, finger painting, not good, the lights, the loud assemblies, the fire drill, you know, the kids who are putting their hands over their ears. I've sort of joked that I could walk into a classroom cold and potentially identify your twice exceptional kids because they're the ones in sweatpants every day, sweatpants, sweatshirts, because they need to wear, they found something soft and comfortable and they wear it every day. You know, or the velour sort of leisure pants, or you know, they wear those comfortable clothes all the time. And so it's kind of a, you know, it's a little ding-ding red flag. You might want to look more into this. There is some connection between early surgeries and pain for young, you know, infants and developing into sensory defensiveness. So the concept of asynchrony in gifted kids, that they may be really strong in one area and not another, it's going to be even more so with our 2E kids. And then the rest of these are fairly common to gifted kids as well as 2E kids. But if you're looking at your child and wondering, you know, do I have a gifted kid or not, if you see a lot of these areas, then chances are you do. I just wanted to show this one because, you know, if you look at these three areas of attention, listening, and task completion, and kid has a problem with that, we have a big tendency to jump right here and call it ADD or ADHD, but that might not be the case, especially if we're looking at preferred tasks versus non-preferred tasks. The child may just have such you know, that imaginational excitability, and they're just imagining all kinds of amazing things in their mind, which means they're not listening to what's going on, which means they didn't get the directions, which means they don't follow the directions. So it's just a caution not to jump immediately to ADD, and especially sort of one filter there is, do the symptoms, are they present all the time, or do they go away when they're doing preferred tasks? You know, the child who can just get lost in what they're doing. Then the opposite issue occurs, then you can't pull them out. Yeah. Time for dinner, time to do something else. They're so hyper-focused on what they're doing.